What if I told you there's a food, easily available, inexpensive, and often overlooked, that has been clinically shown to reverse muscle loss in older adults? Not slow it down, not simply preserve it, but reverse it, helping men and women in their 60s, 70s, even 80s rebuild strength, mobility, and energy. Now here's the part that surprises most people. The food I'm talking about isn't a synthetic powder, it's not a new supplement, and it's not just protein. It's something you've likely walked past dozens of times at your local grocery store without realizing it holds one of the keys to slowing, even undoing, a condition called sarcopenia, age muscle wasting. Sarcopenia is more than just a loss of muscle mass. It's a loss of independence. It's the quiet thief of mobility, of metabolic health, of stability, and sometimes even of dignity. After age 60, we begin losing up to 1-2% of muscle mass every year. By 75, this accelerates, and it affects not just the biceps or thighs, but core muscles involved in walking, standing, even breathing. But here's where the story shifts. Researchers from the University of Arkansas and the University of Toronto have found that specific amino acids, especially leucine, when consumed through the right natural food, can reactivate muscle protein synthesis in older adults almost as powerfully as in someone half their age. In other words, the right nutrition can turn back on the machinery that tells your body to build muscle, even if that signal has been quiet for years. And this particular food, it's one of the richest natural sources of bioavailable leucine, plus essential proteins, muscle repair nutrients, and gut-friendly compounds that improve absorption. Over the next few minutes, we're going to dive deep into what this food is, how it works at the muscular and cellular level, and most importantly, how to use it in your daily routine to reverse muscle loss, improve strength, and extend vitality into your 70s and beyond. You'll learn why muscle loss isn't just about aging, but signaling pathways in your brain and gut that can be reactivated, the exact nutrient in this food that triggers muscle growth, and what time of day it's most effective, how this food compares to whey, soy, and even creatine when it comes to real-world muscle recovery. A daily protocol you can start using immediately without needing to overhaul your entire diet. And here's the most encouraging part. The brain and muscle talk to each other. When your body becomes stronger, your mind follows, improving focus, mood, and resilience. This is not about vanity. It's about autonomy. It's about staying capable and cognitively sharp, not just for yourself, but for the people who count on you. Let's explore the 6 core insights you need to understand this muscle rebuilding food and how to use it. For years, the story around aging and muscle loss was simple. You're getting older, your body's slowing down, and muscle just disappears. But modern science tells a very different story, and it's a hopeful one. Muscle doesn't vanish just because of age. It fades because cellular signaling slows down, and in many cases, completely shuts off. Let's break this down. In your body, muscle growth and repair are controlled by a pathway called mTOR, short for mechanistic target of rapamycin. Think of mTOR like a command switch inside your cells. When it's turned on, it tells your body, build muscle, use protein, repair tissue. When it's off, that growth signal goes silent, and that's when muscle starts wasting. Now here's the fascinating part. mTOR doesn't just operate on autopilot. It responds to specific triggers, especially one amino acid in particular, leucine. But we'll explore that more in the next section. What's important to understand here is that mTOR signaling becomes resistant with age, a phenomenon scientists call anabolic resistance. Essentially, older muscles need a louder signal to respond. They're not broken, they're just harder to reach. This is where the big mistake happens. Many seniors are told to just eat more protein. But unless that protein contains a high enough dose of leucine and is consumed at the right time, the signal never gets loud enough to activate mTOR. As a result, the protein goes in, but the muscle never gets the message to grow. Now let's add another layer. When mTOR is underactive, another pathway tends to take over, AMPK, a signal associated with energy conservation. This shift makes the body less focused on building and more focused on preserving energy. That's great during fasting or illness, but chronically high AMPK activity, especially without resistance training or nutrient support, can promote muscle breakdown. So what does this mean in everyday terms? It means that muscle loss isn't inevitable, it's responsive to inputs. And those inputs are under your control: the right food, the right timing, and gentle mechanical load like walking or body weight exercise. A study published in the Journals of Gerontology found that when older adults combined leucine-rich nutrition with even light resistance movement, they regained muscle size, improved insulin sensitivity, and had better balance within just 8 to 12 weeks. Here's what the research shows. You're not losing muscle because your body is broken. You're losing it because the signal to build has gone quiet. But with the right inputs, that signal can be turned back on, even at 75. A simple tool to apply here is this. Begin thinking of muscle as a responsive organ, not a passive one, like a light switch waiting for the right signal. That signal, it starts with a certain kind of food, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. But before we go there, if this insight is opening your eyes to what's really going on inside your body, consider subscribing to the channel. We break down neuroscience, nutrition, and behavioral tools like this every week in a way that's practical, evidence-based, and designed to help you stay strong, focused, and full of vitality. Next, we'll explore the specific amino acid that turns on this growth signal and the exact food that delivers it naturally and powerfully. Let's zoom in now on the key molecule at the center of this muscle rebuilding process: leucine. Leucine is an essential branch chain amino acid, meaning your body cannot produce it on its own. It must come from your diet. But leucine isn't just any amino acid. It acts like a molecular switch for growth. Here's how it works. When you consume protein from food, shakes, or supplements, it's broken down into amino acids. But not all of those amino acids have the same effect. Leucine specifically activates mTOR, the very signal we discussed earlier that tells your body to build new muscle proteins. Think of mTOR as a construction foreman. Leucine is the key card that unlocks the site gates. Without it, the crew can't start working, no matter how much building material you have. Now, here's the problem. Most seniors, even those who are consciously eating protein, aren't getting enough leucine per meal to trigger this signal, especially because aging muscle becomes less responsive. The threshold is higher. Instead of 1.5 grams of leucine, which might work for someone in their 30s, older adults often need 2.5 to 3 grams per meal to effectively activate muscle protein synthesis. But where do you get that much leucine naturally? Surprisingly, and this is where it gets interesting, one of the richest, most bioavailable sources of leucine is eggs, but not just the whites, the whole egg. Studies from the University of Illinois and McMaster University have shown that consuming whole eggs post-exercise stimulates muscle growth significantly more than egg whites alone, despite both containing equal protein. Why? Because the yolk contains not only leucine, but also phospholipids and micronutrients that enhance anabolic signaling and improve absorption. In fact, just 3 large eggs provide nearly 2.7 grams of leucine, precisely in the range needed to trigger mTOR activation in older adults. Here's a practical example. A senior who eats 3 whole eggs paired with a slice of sourdough or avocado around 30-60 minutes after light resistance exercise or a walk can enhance muscle repair, boost amino acid uptake, and improve strength recovery more effectively than many commercial protein shakes. And if you're worried about cholesterol, it's worth noting multiple studies, including a 2020 review in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, have confirmed that dietary cholesterol from eggs does not raise blood cholesterol levels in most people and may actually support testosterone and cell membrane health, both vital for aging adults. Here's a simple tool to apply. Eat 2 to 4 whole eggs daily, ideally timed after light physical activity or as a protein-rich breakfast. This ensures that your muscle-building machinery has the raw material and the signal it needs. Of course, this isn't the only food with leucine, but eggs offer an ideal ratio of leucine to total protein, plus vital cofactors that make it uniquely effective, especially for seniors. And remember, the brain tracks strength. Muscle strength supports balance, confidence, even mental clarity. When your body is rebuilding, your brain registers that as progress, and that matters psychologically. If this kind of science-backed tool is helping you feel more in control of your health, take a second to like this video. It helps the algorithm reach more people who need this kind of empowering, practical knowledge. And it helps this community grow with people who care about lifelong vitality. Walk into any health store and you'll see shelves stacked with protein powders, whey isolate, plant-based blends, collagen, soy, pea, casein. For years, these powders have been marketed as the gold standard for muscle building, especially in aging populations. But here's what the research reveals. Real whole foods, like eggs, often outperform powders when it comes to muscle protein synthesis in older adults. Let's unpack why. First, protein powders are designed to be fast digesting. That can be helpful after an intense workout, but for older adults who are not engaged in heavy resistance training, this rapid spike and fall of amino acids in the bloodstream can be suboptimal. It may not provide the sustained anabolic signaling needed for muscle repair over the course of several hours. Whole foods like eggs, especially when combined with some fat and fiber, offer a more gradual release of amino acids, leading to longer landing mTOR activation. This is critical for seniors whose muscles require a longer, stronger signal to initiate repair. A 2017 study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that when older adults consumed whole eggs, their muscle protein synthesis increased significantly more than when they consumed egg whites alone, even when the total protein content was equal. This shows that something in the yolk, likely a combination of lecithin, vitamins D and B12, and phospholipids, enhances the body's ability to absorb and use the protein. Additionally, whole eggs contain choline, which is essential for nerve-muscle communication, especially important in aging populations to maintain neuromuscular health. Protein powders generally lack this. Now let's touch on bioavailability, how efficiently the body absorbs and utilizes the protein. Eggs have one of the highest biological values of any food, around 100, compared to whey, 500, and soy, 78,000, one of the smallest subset of proteins that I find the most satisfying. And then comes the pink part. But again, bioavailability is not the only factor. The cofactors in eggs make the protein more usable for muscle repair, especially in seniors. Here's something you may not hear from supplement companies. Powders are convenient, but real foods like eggs offer muscle-building advantages that powders can't replicate, especially when consumed as part of a complete meal. Let's talk practical application. If you're over 60 and trying to reverse muscle loss, here's a simple protocol. Eat 3 whole eggs within an hour of light movement, like a 20-minute walk, bodyweight squats, or resistance band work. Pair the eggs with healthy fats, like olive oil or avocado, and a small portion of complex carbs, like sweet potato or whole grain toast, especially after movement. This combination creates the ideal internal environment for muscle protein synthesis, hormone balance, and nutrient absorption. No blender required. You might be wondering, should I give up protein powders completely? Not necessarily. They can be helpful as supplements, particularly when appetite is low or after higher intensity strength work. But for most seniors, leaning on whole, nutrient-dense foods like eggs will produce better long-term results, especially in terms of strength, balance, and metabolic health. And here's a deeper insight. When you nourish your body with real whole foods, you're not just feeding your muscles, you're feeding your microbiome, your hormones, your brain, the entire network that keeps you strong, sharp, and emotionally stable. In part 4, we'll explore why timing matters just as much as the food itself, and how aligning your meals with your body's circadian rhythms can amplify your results. Let's imagine 2 people. both in their 70s. They eat the same amount of protein, even the same food. Let's say 3 whole eggs. But one eats them first thing in the morning after a short walk. The other eats them late at night while watching television. Who rebuilds more muscle? According to the science, the first person sees significantly more benefit. Why? Because when you eat is just as important as what you eat, especially for older adults trying to reverse muscle loss. Let's break this down. Our muscles don't operate in a vacuum. They follow circadian rhythms, biological clocks that govern energy use, repair processes, and hormonal signals across the day. These rhythms are synced to light, movement, and food intake. Research from the University of Texas and Maastricht University has shown that muscle protein synthesis is highest earlier in the day, especially in the morning, hours after physical movement. Why? Because this is when insulin sensitivity, digestive enzyme activity, and mitochondrial function are all primed to work optimally. Here's what's happening in your body when you move in the morning. Your cortisol levels naturally rise at dawn, making it easier to mobilize energy and initiate movement. Insulin sensitivity is at its peak, which means nutrients from food, like amino acids, are more effectively transported into your muscle cells. The brain is also more plastic, meaning the signals between muscles and motor neurons are sharper, reinforcing muscle memory and coordination. Eating protein-rich foods like eggs within 30-60 minutes after light physical activity creates an ideal environment for anabolic recovery, a state where your body is actively rebuilding tissue. Now let's look at the other scenario, eating eggs late at night after being sedentary all day. What happens? Muscle protein synthesis is reduced, insulin sensitivity drops, mTOR activation is lower, and instead of helping you rebuild, that protein may simply get oxidized for energy or stored as fat. There's also a neurological element here. Eating protein too close to bedtime can interfere with melatonin production if it contains stimulating amino acids like tyrosine, which can delay deep sleep. And poor sleep further impairs muscle repair. So here's a simple rule of thumb, backed by research. Train and feed your body when it's biologically ready to build earlier in the day after movement. A practical protocol. Do 15-20 minutes of light resistance movement or walking in the morning. Within an hour, eat a leucine-rich meal, such as 3 whole eggs paired with healthy fats and a complex carb. Repeat this habit at least 4 or 5 days per week for 8 weeks. This timing pattern aligns with your body's circadian muscle building window, giving your food the maximum effect. And here's something empowering. This doesn't require a gym, a supplement, or a massive lifestyle overhaul. It's about aligning your habits with how your biology naturally works. If this insight into nutrient timing is giving you a new sense of clarity and you're finding real value in this science-backed approach, consider subscribing to the channel. These are the kinds of tools we break down every week so you can make changes that are sustainable, powerful, and evidence-based. When we talk about muscle loss and rebuilding strength, most people think about workouts, protein, and maybe supplements. But one critical piece is often overlooked, and it could be the hidden barrier to progress, especially for adults over 60. That piece is your gut. Here's what the research shows. Your ability to rebuild muscle is directly influenced by how well your gut absorbs and utilizes nutrients, particularly amino acids like leucine. As we age, digestive efficiency declines, stomach acid production drops, enzyme output lowers. The gut lining becomes more permeable, and the microbiome, the collection of bacteria that live in your intestines, often becomes less diverse and more inflammatory. All of this means that even if you're eating enough protein, your body might not be absorbing and delivering those muscle-building nutrients efficiently. So you're doing the right thing, but not getting the results. This is where whole eggs again stand out. Eggs, especially the yolk, contain natural compounds that support gut health. Phospholipids, these are fat-like molecules that help repair and maintain the intestinal barrier, protecting against leaky gut and enhancing nutrient absorption. Choline, vital for liver health and bile production, which is essential for digesting fats and fat-soluble vitamins like A, D, E, and K. all crucial for muscle recovery. Biotin and vitamin B12 support nerve signaling and cellular energy metabolism, both of which depend on a healthy gut lining and microbiome. Even more fascinating is that egg proteins are naturally antimicrobial. They support the growth of beneficial gut bacteria while reducing harmful strains like Clostridium perfringens, which is associated with inflammation and muscle breakdown in older adults. In other words, eggs help you absorb more of what you eat and heal the system that delivers nutrients to your muscles. And it doesn't stop there. Recent research in the Journal of Cachexia, Sarcopenia, and Muscle suggests that gut degradation inflammation is a hidden driver of sarcopenia. When your gut leaks microscopic toxins into the bloodstream, your immune system stays activated, producing low-grade inflammation that suppresses mTOR and speeds up muscle loss. So now we see the full picture. Gut health isn't separate from muscle health, it's upstream. If you don't support your gut, your muscles never get the full benefit of what you eat. Here's a simple tool to apply. Pair eggs with prebiotic-rich vegetables, like lightly cooked spinach, onions, or asparagus. These feed your beneficial gut bacteria, and consider adding a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar or fermented foods like kimchi or yogurt to meals, which lower gut pH and improve amino acid absorption. And if you're struggling with bloating, indigestion, or irregularity, those are signals your gut may be compromising your muscle recovery. Addressing it can unlock strength, energy, and clarity you may not have felt in years. At this point, we've explored the signaling pathways that control muscle growth, the amino acid leucine, the power of whole eggs, the importance of timing, and even the gut-muscle connection. Now, let's bring it all together into a simple daily protocol you can actually follow. No guesswork, no expensive supplements, just one intelligent, science-based habit that can change how your body feels and performs. It's called the Muscle Reset Meal. Here's the basic structure. The protocol. Movement first. Do 15-20 minutes of light resistance activity each morning. This could be a brisk walk, body weight squats, resistance band work, or a short staircase session. Eat within 30-60 minutes. Consume a leucine-rich whole food breakfast centered around 3 whole eggs. Pair with absorption boosters. Include a small portion of healthy fat, like avocado or olive oil, a complex carb, like oats, sourdough, or sweet potato, and a gut-friendly food, like sautéed spinach, kimchi, or 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar in warm water. Hydrate. Add a glass of water with a pinch of sea salt and a squeeze of lemon to support electrolyte balance and digestion. Repeat 4-6 days a week. This protocol activates mTOR, delivers muscle-building amino acids, reduces gut inflammation, and aligns with your body's natural anabolic rhythm. You don't need to count macros. You don't need expensive powders. You need consistency. Here's what's happening in your body when you follow this habit. Your nervous system is stimulated by movement, which sharpens motor pathways and reawakens muscle fibers that may have gone dormant. Leucine-rich eggs activate protein synthesis, even in older, anabolic-resistant muscle tissue. Nutrient synergy from fats, fiber, and fermented foods improves absorption and gut function. Over time, this combination leads to improved balance, strength, energy, and resilience. And perhaps most importantly, it builds momentum. A healthy morning anchors the rest of your day. When you start your day strong, it becomes easier to make better choices at lunch, stay focused in the afternoon, and wind down properly in the evening. Let me offer a final encouragement here. Muscle isn't just tissue. It's identity. It's the part of you that moves toward your goals, that stabilizes your posture, that protects your organs, that carries your grandkids, that picks you up when life tries to knock you down. Rebuilding muscle at 65 or 75 isn't about vanity. It's about agency. It's about saying, I'm not done. I still have strength left in me. Even if you feel like your best days are behind you, the research is clear. Muscle can come back. Strength can return. The signal just needs to be reactivated. Let's recap what we've learned and, more importantly, what you can do with it. Muscle loss after 60 is not inevitable. It's not just about getting older. It's about silent signals in your body, signals that can be turned back on. And that turning point starts with something as simple and accessible as whole eggs. We began by understanding that muscle loss isn't just a function of age, it's a failure of internal signaling. Pathways like mTOR, which tell your body to build and repair muscle, go dormant, but they don't disappear. And research shows they can be reactivated even at 75 with the right stimulus. We then explored leucine, the amino acid that acts like a molecular switch for muscle growth. Eggs, especially whole eggs, are among the richest natural sources of leucine. 3 eggs give you the threshold amount needed to spark muscle protein synthesis in older adults. And it's not just about protein. The cofactors found in eggs, like choline, phospholipids, and vitamin D, help support gut health, nerve signaling, and absorption. This is why real whole foods often outperform protein powders, especially when you're not a 25-year-old bodybuilder, but someone focused on strength, energy, and vitality. We discuss timing, how aligning your meals with your body's natural rhythms, especially post-movement in the morning, can drastically enhance nutrient utilization and rebuild lost strength. And finally, we looked at the often ignored connection between the gut and the muscle. Because if your gut isn't absorbing, your muscles aren't rebuilding, no matter what you eat. That brings us to the protocol, the muscle reset